Hello, beloveds, and thank you for joining today on the Awakened Being Conversations to Create Change. In the Marci on Medicine series, we're sharing authentic and transparent and vulnerable conversations about working with sacred sacraments. And the beloved that is here in this transmission is Scott Fischer, who he is a powerhouse of a leader who is a transformational guide, a master facilitator, who running retreats and programs. He's an approved facilitator through the Marci Ascension Adventures program, and having gone through Awakened Embodied Healer, taking people to the Columbia experiences and my signature Journey to Remembrance experiences, as well as doing men's circles and in his coaching platform with him and his wife. And so he shares his journey of healing his cancer and finding his purpose, and all the beautiful experiences and shifts from being a law enforcement officer, a cop for 20 plus years, and that life of control, rigidity, and just the different ways of his life experience to then his massive shifts and healing through sacred sacraments. So grateful that he's here for this transmission, that you're here for this transmission. And what I also want to invite you to is, if you're curious about sacred sacraments, if you're curious whether you've worked with them or not, you can always visit our events page, which gives you access to a massive portal of resources to be able to, learn all the different aspects of what you want to be looking into for space, for teachers, for the different things. It also has a calendar of all of our facilitators that are approved and have trained with me, and when they're going through these different journeys and experiences, that is available, as well as, like I said, plenty of other resources. You can also go to marcilock.com and you can instantly get access to a free training, Living in 100% Joy Now training, and some of my trainings for already starting to allow you to see what's not serving and working, and where you get to create some changes, and how to do that, how to specifically become conscious and aware and have the tools to shift those things to have a new experience. So, and if you've been on the path for a really long time and you're ready for like the full fucking path, like every aspect of your human experience to be a fuck yes, living in your divinity, then I invite you to take a look at Aligned to Manifest, which is a sacred portal of life mastery. It's teaching you how to be living in your divine fuck yes life. And if you're just like, I don't know, I'm really struggling with relationships or money or, whatever it is, check out the other activations, meditations, and products that can support, or these programs that can support, such as in just really focusing on how you completely have a game changer shift in your relationships or in your money game. So there's plenty of resources that are there available to support my loves. And I'm so grateful to be here on the journey with you. So grateful that you're leaning into the healing of your own life in every single way, that it creates a healing for all, and that we can all together only reflect that there's so much more. Thank you for being here, beloved, and enjoy the show. Hi, fellow beloveds. I'm so excited to be with you guys, to share with you this sacred transmission, the sacred soul, here on the Awakened Being Conversations Create Change. It's me, Sundari, the Alchemist of Light, also known as Marci Lock Mentor, and I am here with the Scott Fischer. Scott Fischer. He's just fucking cool. In every way. I adore him. I am so grateful. So grateful, and so expanded from the experiences I've had with you and the reference points I have in my system of getting to be with you, and which we'll dive into and share. But Scott is a very powerful transformational guide. He's a master facilitator. He facilitates training in really helping people come back to the remembrance of their better selves. He does this in many ways, like with retreats. He's an approved facilitator with the Marci Ascension Adventure Retreat. So he offers the guidance through working with Grandmother Aya in Columbia, our sacred space there, as well the Journey to Remembrance experiences, working with other sacred sacraments as well. He and his wife have a platform where they get to coach and support a lot of beautiful individuals through coaching, through retreats, as well as even men's circles that you do as well. So you're doing so many great, amazing things to help people come to their transformation and their healing and their remembrance, which is why I'm so excited to dive into the juiciness of your story, because I really feel like so many people could probably resonate with coming from the space that you did, which we'll kind of dive into. But first off, I just want to say, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for my experience of you in my world, and you being here and sharing your journey and who you are.
Thank you. I definitely receive all of that and more. so many synchronicities just flooded into my field and drew me into you and into medicine and just into healing, right? And remembering who I am.
Yeah.
Lots and
Yeah.
lots of things really just stacked up and were really coming to a head as I just continued to resist life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boom,
Yeah.
flew wide,
Yeah.
wide open. And my
Let's
whole
context that, how that came into your world. Because first off, this is why I feel like I'm curious myself, like how much fucking woo-woo you were open to, or you saw, or you had even experienced an empowerment. Because I know you said you kind of tapped your feet in the field, but yet your mother-in-law was one of my personal clients. Then your daughter got involved and she came to one of my retreats, Journey to Remembrance. Then she came to another Journey to Remembrance. And you had shared with me that you had the call to medicine quite a long time before, but it kind of you felt like you had to ignore it because you were a law enforcement veteran for like 20 some odd years, plus own your own agency. So very much like I fucking work in the law. No, I can't do any of that stuff was kind of the feel. And so I'd love like how this came about, even in you coming into my experience in Colombia. Your wife had just gone through her second Journey to Remembrance, and then she got home and you shared with her what news and what happened.
Yeah. So yeah, my mother-in-law is one of your clients,
Yeah.
and had gone through different experiences with you, and my wife, her daughter, jumped on board and started going through that, and they'd gone through one Journey to Remembrance, and it was beautiful. And I had so many amazing conversations with her, bonding over it,
Yeah.
because 5+ years prior to that, I had started being called to the medicine, but there were
Yeah.
roadblocks in place. I was in law enforcement at the time. I worked with the state agency um, at that point for 15+ years,
Mm-hmm.
almost 20+ years at that point. And
Mm-hmm.
then the second Journey to Remembrance came and this was like the beginning of all the synchronicities that just lined up and lined up and lined up.
Yeah.
She walked through the door on her way back from a retreat with you,
Yeah.
and it had amazing transformational experiences and so much to share. And I honestly was very, very excited to have
Yeah.
her back and be in my presence and for us to share that. And the universe threw me a curveball because 30 minutes before she walked in the door, I received news from a skin biopsy that I had malignant melanoma.
Mm-hmm.
And now we had to deal with that,
Yeah.
or that was put into,
Yeah. Yeah.
our field to deal with. And so, I mean, integration is such a critical part of this process. And
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to give her all of that. And even then still did. But I also wanted to be true to my own experience and what was going on. And I wanted to bring her into my experience, and like I needed support, she needed support. And it was difficult. It was
Mm-hmm.
difficult to navigate. And
Mm-hmm.
so I dropped that bomb on her, minutes after she walked in the door, and her mom was with her. And her mom had been at JTOR with her,
Yep.
facilitating
Yep. Mm-hmm.
in training with AEH. And so her first thought was being, oh, gotta get Scott into Colombia, gotta get him off to Colombia and working with Marci. And like she immediately just started banging away at texts to Cami, to you, to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
seeing if there was space, how can I make this happen? And of course, like, I just contracted. Like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
no, I gotta control all of this, medicine, but underneath it all,
Mm-hmm.
there was still this openness to it because the medicine had been calling to me for 6+ years.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, is I could see the resistance. I could feel the resistance. And I felt it once before, and it was at one of my biggest rock bottoms. And so I
Mm-hmm.
leaned into it. Even with her, she's still pushing pressure, and she wasn't really being pressured. She was being supportive. She was being loving. I
Yeah.
was receiving it as pressure. It was my experience of it. And so she she cleared the path. Like everything lined up, there was an open space, and there wasn't expected to be an open space.
Yeah.
And all the logistics at work, every time I was like, well, but this exists, I got to be at work, I got to do this stuff. And at the time I was still working hard and training in law enforcement, and the path just cleared.
Mm.
And so everything lined up. And one of the most beautiful things is I do have a deep reverence for medicine. Like, I honor the traditions, I honor the sacred nature of where these things come from and how they're given to us in the tradition. And I won't accept less. Let me just put it that way. Like, I don't like to see a disservice to the medicine itself. It's a gift, a beautiful gift. And so I have friends who have, gone to little overnights, and you've spoken of this in previous podcasts, where, you're sitting in circle with 20, 50, maybe 80 people.
Yeah.
It's not, and I mean, these are close friends, men from my circle.
Yeah.
Who've gone this seeking healing. And they've gotten some self-led healing, but it's all self-led. And they don't have any support. They don't have any, any preparation, little to no support during, and then absolutely zero after. No integration, no advance notice of what to expect or how to, move back into, the day-to-day and keep the gifts that you were given, or integrate the gifts that you were given. And so that was the biggest thing for me. It was like, I stopped and became present with it. It was like, we're going to Colombia. We're going to be with Mama, who I just have a deep reverence for. She, working with medicine for over 70 years, it's who she is. A true shaman. One who is there for the love of healing. And to have Marci Locke on my side, who was going to support me before, during, after, and help me remember, heal, in all beautiful ways possible. And so I didn't want to do that quick and dirty here, but I knew I had the calling to medicine, and never in my life expected to have a way to make that happen. Like, it was beyond me, especially in the position that I was in, just being on the law enforcement side, living in my logical mind and everything else. And just everything lined up. I got to have that beautiful experience in the garden, for 4 different days with you and all the other beloveds that just shared their energy, and we healed together, we laughed together, we cried together. And
you were multidimensional as fuck together, because that was some of my favorite memories of supporting you. You were fucking like seeing everything, and like, oh, I was like, babe.
Andromeda across the river, and all of it was there, and here I was bouncing in between. That humans can put to it is, it was absolutely beautiful.
Now you get it, where I'm always like, I always say, like, there's no human words for me to really describe what happens there and in these retreats and in these experiences working with the sacred sacraments, when we obviously know we prepare, we work during. You guys learn way before even coming how to play with the energy of the medicine, how to allow things to release and purge when you need to purge, and all the things, and the integration after. So it's like I'm like, how do you describe it? And your group specifically, when you got to come to Colombia, the light beings had told me that the only way to describe what would happen for your group was miracles. And I'm like, every single person, I feel like, and you can, attest if this is true for you, but it was like literally experienced miracles, and it's like, you can't put words into that. And, it can just sound like you're fucking tripping and woo-woo as fuck. But most people, they experience that, and then their human comes back online and they don't know all the ways to integrate and do everything. And it's like, oh, that couldn't have really happened. Like, Because you could see how we're like, we were always like, we don't make this shit up. This is like, you couldn't even imagine what we actually experience, and we couldn't actually try to make it up. It's way beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. There are not words for it. And miracle, beauty and miracle are about as close as you can get.
Yeah.
And to be able to witness that. And I was in such gratitude and awe of everyone, including myself. Like I could be,
Yeah.
I am objective to it. It like, that is part of the beauty of it. That is part of the miracle, being objective to it and being able to set aside the ego and experience the totality of yourself and others. And I was constantly wandering around after hours, when ceremony had come to completion, and we're all, back in circle and having shared, and just constantly sharing gratitude for being allowed to witness, these transformations. And that's what like really has been the huge driver, is to just continue to facilitate those transformations. It is the new world. It is, it is what the human experience is supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's available.
Yeah.
And so, I'll do whatever's in my power to continue to help facilitate that for others. That is my purpose. That is what I found in my purpose, is leading and pushing forward to allow others to become better, to allow others to remember who they are and live their truest and fullest lives.
Yeah. The only thing I'd add to that is that there is no push required of you, because you're it now, like you were in a place where you thought it was separate from. And this is where I love you to get to share some of your juiciness and the context, where people be like, okay, so it's all amazing and all that, but like, what were you experiencing before? And you obviously mentioned that you had, which I actually want to go back to and just reference that when you said, like all things were laid out for you, available. When you get the call and it's like, you choose to step forward into it. You mentioned we had a spot, which we actually had said no to several applicants, and was like, well, you know what? I was like, I feel like someone's in the field. I feel someone. And I guess we just hold this spot. And if we don't have that spot, we don't have that spot. And then literally, Megan messaged us right after and was like, is it possible? And I want to share on my side of it. She sent the message and just got home from JDR. And so she walked in the door and you shared with her the news of the diagnosis. And instantly I got, oh my God, we got to get Scott to Columbia. and then I remember, like, I was about to type it in because I was still listening to her message. And I was like, hold off. I'm just going to chill and like, let me fully receive everything she has to say. And then she brings it forward. Is there any way Scott could go to your next group in Columbia? And I was like, yep, we're all on the same page. It's all happening. And yet you had mentioned how you were just like, fuck no. But it took a little of you opening and softening to that, and then getting to have that experience.
Yeah. And that was the way I'd learned to show up in this world over the course of 45 years.
Yeah.
And so if it wasn't within my control, if I couldn't control every single little aspect of it, I was like, fuck no. I mean, and I was a cop. I mean, that's the world we live in. And it's weird sitting in this place and looking at myself back in that place. I want to say that's like a normal human experience, when I know there's so much more.
I know.
And I'm like, that's not normal. That's, I don't know if I can cuss here, but that's fucked up.
Oh, hello. Who are you talking to? You know what comes out of my mouth all the time, right? Free flow. Yeah.
And so, that, and that's what smacked me right in the face, is like, that's the resistance that I was aware of.
Yeah.
And I don't want, I didn't want to be that way. I've had that experience in the past, and I know and knew then, even like, there's just that little twinge. It's like, no, there's something better. And then all the things started coming to me. It's like, I've had this calling. Why am I saying no? I know I needed like more and better in my life. Why would I say no?
Yeah.
My whole world just got shook up. Why would I say no?
Right.
What
Right.
if I don't have the opportunity later? Why would I
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
something I always wanted? Why would you say no to something you've always wanted?
Yeah.
It was that moment. I was like, fuck. Yeah. Well, of course I'm a fuck yes. Now there's all these other things I got to do, right? And I got to get off work and I got to do all these other things.
Yeah.
Those are human challenges, right?
Yeah.
They're just silly little things that don't necessarily matter. And I have
Yeah.
to say, I was wildly supported at work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I shared my diagnosis with them too. And they're like, take as much time as you want, you know, go do what you need to do to be happy. And of course, I didn't share with them that I was going down.
I'm going to the jungle. We doing some crazy shit with Marci Locke.
Share everything, but I was like, I'm traveling. I'm going to go do some things for myself. Things
Mm,
I always wanted to do. You
yeah.
know, you love everything outdoors, and what better way than to walk
Yeah.
barefoot and then go for 9 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I
Um,
love that you brought some awareness to that I hope people can really feel, because I like you when you have when you see and you can't unsee, or you're like, you can't fucking go back, like, to suffering, tolerating like life as the human, the normal. I really, you did describe it well. It's like, well, this is the normal. I forget that that exists a lot of times. It's when I, travel back into the States or whatever, I'm like, oh, whoa, this is as big as the box gets for people. Like, what? Like, I forgot that they think this way and operate this way. And I'm like, oh, so much love and compassion for the human experience. And I have to take myself back to remembering when it was like all I knew was sacrifice and suffering and struggle and survive. And I remember in my own experience, if I go back to that time period, which feels like lifetimes ago in what I experience now, it's like, remember thinking there has to be something else. Like, is this really all life is? It's just meant like we're just supposed to fucking suffer and struggle from one thing to the next and then die. Like, isn't there something else? Like, you would think that there has to be something better. And you mentioned that twinge where it's like, there's just got to be something else. And if it's not control, and a lot of these programs that you were operating from, that is the normal collective way. It's like control, I have to protect myself, like this, I'm just going to stick to what we think we have to do. And so I really appreciate that you spoke to that, because I feel like hopefully people can feel if that resonates in their body or their systems. Or like, have you ever thought like, man, like, this is just what life is. And we buy into that this is what life is, instead of like that little inkling of your soul's trying to talk to you and say, no, beloved, there's more, there's more, there's more. And now that you've experienced it, you're like, whoa, like, that's not normal. That is fucked up. Like, our normal is living in our divine birthright of bliss and joy and happiness and expression and expansion and discovery of how, all the ways we're here to play in our full remembrance of ourselves. And you also, from that time to this time, you have quite, I found it fascinating, loved witnessing you. So when I first got to interact with you, when you got to Columbia, and we're kind of all diving into, and so you went through the whole retreat system thing, but because you came in just a little later, you weren't on like the prep integration call or the prep calls. And even my assistant, she got to spend like the day with you as you were helping, because they were getting stuff prepared. And she's like, he is such a phenomenal being. I'm like, of course he is. I'm so excited to be with Scott. And I instantly had this being that you are, like your presence, your essence, so beautiful. And I also felt this deep protector that was like, I'm half available. I'm not so sure I'll let you in. And I was like, oh, hi, protector. And we had just a few minutes and got to ask him to step aside, and the fullness came out. But I remember like getting to witness more of this with you, and then to see your experience through the jungle and in through the journey, and how you shared with me that, like whenever you would see people in joy and happiness, you felt like that was fake and it just really wasn't real. And you thought they must be faking just for like likes or approval or whatever. And yeah, I'm really curious for you sharing like your journey through some of these things, obviously from your diagnosis, and that kind of being the trigger point. It was a trigger point that really kind of pushed you over to get to go and do this. But yeah, I'd love you to bring some context to like what you were experiencing and what evolved.
and so like my healing or growth journey started like back at that rock bottom, right? It was 5 years before all of this. And that's what led me and drew me in and put me in the path of medicine and guide me into it. And so you spoke at the beginning about, how much I've been exposed to the woo-woo side of all of this. And like, you have a very witchy wife and
Yeah.
and grandmother-in-law, and have had that in previous relationships. And like, it's a beautiful thing. And I've always been that person on the outside, right? That's what you were just talking about, the protector. And it is a weird, like, I'll just throw this in there, and I did share it with you back in some of those early moments, is like, I don't have any memories from the early part of my life. I don't know where a lot of that was built from, but I knew at that point, my service was to create safety for others, right? To give them a place to actually just relax and be safe and express themselves. And so a lot of people were then, and always have been, still are going to be, and I accept it as a gift, drawn to me.
Yeah.
I have a service that I give to others in that. Back then, though, that first interaction between you and I, when you felt that protector and you could see it and actually connect to it, I couldn't give that to myself. It was my job to do it for others. It wasn't my job to do it for myself.
Yeah.
And in doing so, I closed a lot of myself off, both to the world, both, I mean, the epitome of being numb to the world. I truly did look at others and saw them expressing joy, and I was happy for them, but I wasn't actually connecting to the feeling of joy or happiness. Like, I was just kind of going through the logical motions of, yeah, that's good for them, but it felt fake because I didn't know how to feel it. I thought they were being fake. I saw people able to move through emotions and be fake. And so for 38 years of my life, like, I didn't even have emotions. I didn't experience, I should say, I didn't experience emotions until maybe blew up every once in a while. The tea kettle boiled over, right? And then that's the very narrow window of just anger, and which is always a masking emotion anyway. And it was a beautiful, like, I am forever grateful for you leading me through this, because it opened up a truly different world for me. My life has changed. My life is changed. And people say, oh, it was a life-changing experience. No, God damn it, it's a fucking life-changing experience for me. I did not know what it was like to feel joy. Little tiny moments, right? Just little tiny moments every few years, the birth of a child and other things like that, where the whole world melts away. But that's not our normal, or that's not what we are given as a birthright, as the normal human experience. Joy is where we exist. Bliss is the baseline, as you like to say. And even in the little bit, like, I haven't worn a smile like this consistently since, I can't remember most of my early parts of my life, but my mom does tell me, she says, why don't you smile like you did when you were a kid? And Mama even said the same thing to me. She's like, you have a beautiful smile, you should wear it more. And my mom repeatedly said that to me over and over and over as I grew from about, the age of 20 on. And so it's a life-changing experience. And one of the first things, and you just touched on it a second ago, one of the first things that I got as a lesson was how to be safe. Safety is, and I had always given that to others. Well, this experience was about me, and I let it be about me. That diagnosis wasn't, melanoma is serious. I get it. Treatable, both in Western medicine versions, and we can talk about Carolina and what she was able to do for me too later. Um, the compounding issue is I had lost my dad, just months before that to cancer. He was stage 4 in bladder cancer. And so those two things like hit me, like a car accident. I mean, it was just, I got right over it. And so I went down there with in our prep for this experience, you tell us everything, you just lay it out there and come with an intention. Where's your baseline? Where are we going to move to? Put it all down there, and you fill out the survey. And mine was to bring peace and joy into my life. And I mean, it sounds simple, but wow, can it be any more complicated? There's no part of your life that doesn't touch. And so the first lesson that I learned was about safety, because I was given that to others, and I wanted that for myself. I wanted to be safe, because for 20 plus years of law enforcement, I mean, I can look like I got it all together, but on the inside, I'm screaming like a little boy. I'm crying out, and nothing feels safe, and it's controlled chaos on the inside. Outside, calm, cool, collected, shiny badge, gun hanging, it's fine. You problems, you come to me. And so, oh my gosh, like when I connected to what it truly feels like, because that was the other thing, is like, it's choice, right? That's everything is a choice, a conscious choice. And we get to those unhealthy places of day-to-day living by making unconscious choices, allowing others to guide and lead us rather than us taking ownership of our own lives. And so the conscious choice to actually feel safe, to give that to myself, it was a gift. Given that gift of feeling safe, feeling secure. If I can do it for everybody else, why the fuck can't I do it for me?
And there's a lot that you go through in that, in just your nervous system, because I remember witnessing your nervous system react and would just kind of walk by and encode, just noise is happening, life is just happening, you're always safe, you're always safe, you're always safe. And like that was a big thing for your system.
Letting go of being vigilant, being always on guard to the unknown and the scary, the unsafe, right? You constantly just what the hell's going on? What the fuck's going on over here?
Well, and even your experience of like, wait, where am I? What's happening? Like the mind wanted to make context when you as like you're experiencing, your vastness, you're experiencing your multidimensionality. You can be here in your human body, and you can still your safe lever to expand, to feel all this. And it was like, it was a reprogramming to like, oh, I am safe to be all of me. I'm safe to feel. You're safe to purge, right? Like so many things. You got like safe to like be fully in your experience. And it was just the shifting, the churning that happens as the old stuff was moving from the system to allow you to expand into that freedom and that vastness of you're safe with all of life. There's nothing to protect or guard or hide from or suppress or, for me, it's like a transparency is there's nothing to hide, nothing to prove. And it's your fucking liberation. And you really just gave yourself full liberation.
And it is a liberation, and that was another big lesson that came to me. It was in my voice, right?
Yes.
Another choice to actually use my voice to speak up, and that old part of me was very, very much tied into calm, cool, collected, very, 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 very controlled. And, including what you say in the effect of trying to control the world, right? Even others. I mean, that's law enforcement, is trying to control the actions of others a lot of times. And what's the repercussion of not getting that control? Well, it might mean death. But at this point, I don't care. But transitioning is what it is. Who cares? But I found just repeatedly that beautiful lesson just kept hitting me in the face over and over and over. The more I used my voice, whether it was for moving energy, or for connecting and bonding with somebody else, or for moving myself in a direction, a path, stepping on the new path. so that I could receive the gifts that I truly wanted to receive. Every time I did, instant manifestation. I got what I wanted. Instant. All I had to do was use my voice. And, you know, if I was just moving sound to move energy, just more would come in, more would come in, more would come in. Old goes out, thank you, thank you, thank you. More comes in, more comes in. You know, or I mean, I hesitate to say, but I purge it in a way that's common in ayahuasca, but not overly, you know. So here's me trying to control the way I say it. I mean, basically, I did what a lot of other people may do, and yes, I did, you know, shit my pants. You know, but I'm not ashamed to say it. I honestly am not. It's something that happens, but it got me what I wanted. Believe it or not, it's just another purge, right? It's a release of energy, and it got me what I wanted. But it instantly took me into a place where I was super shameful. The ego immediately rushed back in, right? I wanted to control everything. And I tried to sneak away from the garden and back to my room and hide my shame. And, you know, Maria, the beloved that she is, you know, kept me safe, kept me in the garden. She's like, no, 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 you can't go out there. It's like, no, I need to. She's like, no, you don't need to. You're safe here. Another great lesson, another affirmation of what was true. I was like, well, you know, I did this thing, you know, I pooped my pants. And instantly, the shame was gone. Instantly. The second I said it, and she was so loving around it. She's like, okay, well, let's go down to the river and you wash up. I spent the whole first day wanting to go down to the river. It was all I did. As I stood over the river and looked at it, like, I want to go down there. So it was foreboding, you know, we don't go to the river. We don't want to disappear into Andromeda.
It's a strong portal. We'll just put it that way. Well,
I got exactly what I wanted, and it was the most beautiful thing ever. The water held me in an icy hug, and I was washed clean in more than one way. My soul was washed clean. My clothes were washed clean. Everything was clean. And not, I mean, everything. There wasn't one moment of ceremony and beyond and after, you know, sitting in circle. I mean, the first day, I mean, 12 hours, holy crap.
Yeah, you had a big first day.
I mean, we were sitting in circle and I was still with medicine. And, but, you know, the lessons just kept rushing. And even in the first day, I'm jumping back in a bit of a tangent, but in the first day and sitting in circle afterwards, and we were just around the table sharing, and I could feel the little boy just so joyfully inside me, and I was taking up space, and it was the most amazing thing ever. And I was like, I get to have this. And get has been like one of the most prevalent words in my vocabulary since I was like, well, I get to do these things. I get to have that. I get all of this stuff. I get to choose. And so the
some of my favorite memories that first day with you, because you went from coming in, like you said, like law enforcement guy, controller, protector, lack of joy, etc. Like, and even having the awareness of, you know, feeling the, like I said, the protector that was a little guarded, of even being fully seen and heard, and, you know, having like keeping your voice suppressed, all the things, it just all that I could witness all that, and all within the same day. To then everyone was complete, you're still in it, I'm down there with you, and just getting to like walk around with you, and you're like experiencing the, you know, seeing the cosmic grid and all these things. And I'm like, yeah, babe. And like, we're just kind of opening and catching the little programs and then shifting them and clicking into like the codes of the higher awareness. And I was just in awe of how fucking, like, again, how time doesn't exist, how you could go from that in the beginning of the day, like scared, you know, like nervous system unsettled, suppressing your voice, all that, to like, you went fucking multidimensional. Like you were already, I was like, you are a leader, because the fact that in that first experience, you were already opening and accessing codes of multidimensionality. You were already, you know, and you were connecting to the vision and your role and what you were really here for. And just, it was so fascinating. I laughed my ass off with you which was the best. And recoding moment by moment and just witnessing you. And then, you're like, okay, we get you out of the jungle and you're like, okay, I'm good. And then all of a sudden the human's like, whoa. And I was like, I got you. We're making it up the hill. So you still were like, you were so fully with the medicine, but to go from that vast, that's like, it really is one of my favorite imprintings of being with someone and seeing such huge, massive transformational healing and experience in one day. And it just, it lights up my heart and my soul, really, to have been through that experience with you and to have witnessed you going through so much of that.
Well, I am truly blessed to have been given this opportunity to have it placed in front of me and have it be what it is with who it was and who I was surrounded with.
Yeah.
Never could I have imagined or expected. And so much more clarity has come to me since then about my role moving forward. What that gave to me, I see. I mean, it's one of those things where you just want to share it with everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, and that's a very intentional but.
Mm-hmm. And
so many that are in my situation are so rigid, or in the situation I was. I still identify with it from time to time. In the situation there's so much rigidity there. There's a lifetime of it, and it's, the institutionalism of it, and there's a place. I can see my place in changing that.
Mm-hmm.
See my place in helping others and leading others to a better way of being. That's the simplest way to be it. To say it is that there is a better way to be.
Well,
it's not about doing anything. It's not about anything other than being who you truly are, remembering who you are.
Yeah, and I guess we could say, coming from highest awakened awareness, consciousness, there is no such thing as better, worse than, wrong, right, etc. There's other possibilities, because we're all here to experience. We have infinite timelines available, infinite possibilities available, and we honor every single. Just like you're like, I could see how this is so normal. Everyone goes and has this experience, and they want to share with all their friends. They want everyone. They're like, everyone should have this remembrance, should have this experience. And if they try to go tell everyone, there's a lot that can be like, you fucking crazy and no and all that. And all we can do is, again, honor our truth and what we know. This is why for me, I couldn't deny what plant medicines and sacred sacraments open and access for me. It's like, why would I? And even doesn't matter, like you, even in law enforcement in the past, right? And we can talk about how it kind of opened you up to where you're like, how you've been feeling a call to do more of your passion for many years. And yet, just like medicine, have kind of put it to the side. I can't, because this is what I do and what I know. And so it's like it opened and accesses a pathway of us to have this divine remembrance of all that we are. And all we can do is honor that other people can have whatever process they're choosing, right? You would love to share it with everyone. And it also is a choice, like you said. So it's like, we can honor that there is another possibility for people as they hear this, as they hear you sharing and where you came from. That's like, oh, that's possible. And what I love about the glorious gift we have in this holy human playground is that we as reflectors for each other, as divine mirrors of, it's like, we're here, you're standing in such a place of light now to reflect for others their remembrance. I was probably way fucking crazy to you at one point, or looking at me, it's like, oh, joy doesn't exist. I'm over there fucking a tree. Or, you see me walk. There's a couple times I remember just like, I don't know what I said. I'm moving energy and doing my thing. I look up at you and it's like, and it's just like, and you recognize, you start to come to like, that's available. So I've had so many people say to me, they're like, whoa, like when they come into retreat space or in my space, they're like, wow, that's what it's like to be human. Like, that's another way of being human. And so you are reflecting for other people what it's like to, again, use your voice, like you feel your feelings and emotions, to release control and all these things that have come through, to follow your heart's passion and like what you're experiencing now, and sharing transformational experience for so many people, where it was something that you had a deep desire for in the past, but yet, there was the kind of the shutdown on it. So I just appreciate the vast expansiveness of infinite possibilities that we get to reflect for each other, and what your story even brings in for people. So maybe you can share how that did lead you to, the decisions you were guided to and made down there, like the clarity and the vision you had of like, okay, no longer am I going to put this off. Like, this is what I'm called to do, and how fast you took action on that and shifted so many things.
Yeah, I mean, changes needed to occur, and that was wildly apparent. The service that I have provided to others for however many, 20 plus years of my life, no longer filled me up. It wasn't serving what is my true calling, my true purpose, and that is to help others become better versions of themselves. Right? I was in law enforcement training almost all of those years, and that's one of the things that filled me up the most. Right? That was my purpose. That was my passion, and it was fizzling. And that was a hard thing to deal with. I mean, I think that's where a lot of people kind of fall into that midlife crisis and that rut, and just and so again, more synchronicities just popped up in that, like having this experience and then seeing, becoming clear, having clarity around where I'm moving going forward. Because my wife and I, Megan, had those conversations prior to me leaving, and there was no clarity around it. And so the actionable things that became uber apparent as soon as I got back was I needed to retire. I was capable. I was vested in my pension and was capable of retiring, and had, no longer experienced any kind of fulfillment and purpose by training people. Time to change paths. And inside of that, my wife, owning her coaching business, dealing with her clientele, and then having the desire to start, she's an AEH, and I mean, I was sitting in the airport and I became a fuck yes, right? You
AEH, just for context, is Awakened Embodied Healer. So it's my Awakened Embodied Healer program, where these beloveds got to go through deep training to work with sacred sacraments, facilitate, be able to prepare people, work with them during, integrate after. Yeah, the depths of healed healer training. Oh, yeah. So your wife had just committed to that, and then here you were like, I'm doing that too.
And you would put that out. You had gotten the downloads that saw me in those leadership roles, and you shared that with me, unattached, just like, this is what I'm receiving, and you gave that to me, and 24 hours later, I'm sitting in an airport in Bogota, flying out at midnight, and instantly I was like, I got it, and I was like, no, I'm a fuck yes, and I immediately texted Cami, and it's like, put me in. And like the next day, you guys were doing training. I probably should have stayed, but it's beautiful, it's perfect, everything is, and it's working and worked out just how it should have. And that became apparent. So that next day I retired, and I got home and like told my boss, I was like, hey, we got to have a talk, and gave her my intention to retire, and went through all the paperwork, partnered with my wife and her coaching business, and we're moving it to such bigger levels and have huge things as far as on the horizon, right? They're coming to us and have come to us, and we've built to such bigger and better levels, hosting our own retreats, going back to Colombia, helping heal others in our healed state. And I actually came to some clarity just last night around that. Just more and more keeps flooding into me. I'd love to share that. What I'd always had the most reverence for was the tribal nature, right? The support that comes from that tribal heritage in this. And I truly, those are the origins of man. And I say that in a collective sense. I'm not trying to be, polarized or. is we exist in tribe, always
Mm-hmm.
have. We are not
Mm-hmm.
solitary beings, and we support each other in tribe. And these medicines were given as a gift in tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that currently exists in more modernized society is you just take the medicine, and there's so many ideas about putting it in the clinical realms and things like that, and
Yep.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but what you don't get in anything other than that tribal side, except for what we're mimicking here in
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
preparation, the support, and the integration. Because you
Mm-hmm.
think back, when grandmother Aya was first brought as a gift, deep in South America,
Mm-hmm.
children were raised in that tradition of this is the healing medicine.
Yep.
This is how we come to be who we are.
Yep.
So they're raised or supported ahead of
Fed spoons, little spoon every single day, like as babies. Yep. Like the
time.
real medicine in their bodies. Mm-hmm.
But they've got that support ahead of time. They're prepared. Like we in AH are preparing people to be
Mm-hmm.
to be ready for what they are going to go and do. And then they're there in ceremony as tribe, supporting each other. And it's not just around grandmother Aya. You can think of the tribal communities here in North America, and coming together over whether it be grandfather or any of the others, peyote, or any of the ceremonies there. It's always in tribe. It's always together. It's always loving, and it's always supported.
Yeah.
It's always for the individual who needs the support,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're there for them after.
Yeah.
And so, like, I have immense amounts of pride to be in this group, to be trained by you, and to be out there facilitating and helping others when they have the calling and the need,
Mm-hmm.
because it fits. It's doing honor to the medicine.
Yeah.
It's the way it's supposed to be. It's the way it was given to us.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just take a drink, go lay down there, put on your mask, and hey, good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
healing people. We're
So
healing.
awareness to it. Yeah. So thank you for that. It's a completely different game than it's been told to be in the media and from what people experience. And you can understand why people have had those experiences. A lot of what's shared and projected is trauma and all that, because that there hasn't been the prep, the support, the during, all those things. So, I'm a big, huge proponent for that. And that's, whether individuals here, if they're like, okay, so whether they're coming into our systems, working with me or with Scott, and, that's a part of it. What we've also made available is that medicine expansion freedom formula is something that people can use if they do decide to go work with some other teacher in some other space, but they know how to at least prepare themselves and how to process and move through things and use the medicine and what to expect with integration. And of course, I'd love them to also be in a space where the people are really trained fully in that, supportive, like doing preparation calls and all the things there, and during and the integration after. And so it's just I'm so grateful for you stepping forward as one of these beloveds that I could see could really be in that embodiment role. Awakened embodied healer is to be an awakened embodied healer, not just to talk some talk, but be operating from a wounded healer, wounded shit, is to truly have gone through the healing and the journey, and to hold those codes and that essence and that transmission and that frequency and vibration. And again, it's like being that field of loving presence, and people shit come up that you can hold the field for that divine masculine and feminine, allowing that alchemize and come through to something else. So I truly appreciate that, and I'm grateful for you speaking to that, because I don't know, obviously you hadn't done medicine before, and so I'm grateful you came into my experience. And as you said, witnessing friends or what else is out there. A lot of times when people come through our experiences, they're like, I can't imagine doing medicine like that now. Like, wow, like, whoa, that would just be I can see why that would be traumatizing and completely like not easy on the system and cause a lot of issues. So yeah, I really appreciate the awareness that you're bringing, and the sacredness you feel in it. Because again, for me, I'm like, medicine is so fucking sacred. There's a plenty of shadow work in medicine as well, like utilizing it as distraction and, numbing out in some way, not feeling feelings, all the things, just like someone could do that for food or sex or anything. And so that's why we get to bring awareness to the sacredness of this and how we can utilize it that supports us in that way. And with that, I'd love, because, one of the big things for you, one of the experiences we haven't talked about yet was, obviously you talked about the trigger of the diagnosis, and then your experience of healing your body, healing cancer, and coming to, your body going through its complete healing. Is that something you'd like to share?
I would, and you did ask me about that as part of the other question. I kind of got off on a bit of a tangent, but
There's
yeah,
so many ways to go. You can't even encapsulate everything into one
no,
little call. So we're
no.
just doing highlights. Yeah.
I mean, I could go on for days and days and days with my wife at different times, and she honors that. But yeah, that diagnosis was a trigger. Like I said, the medicine had always been with me and had always called to me, but that diagnosis was a trigger, and not just a trigger, to jump into medicine. It was a trigger to make life changes.
Yeah.
I saw my job as a stressor. It wasn't, I mean, the purpose and the passion, it was still there, but it wasn't lighting me up. So the stress really outweighed any kind of benefit I could get from it.
Mm-hmm.
So that became very apparent. And then, with my dad's passing just a few months prior, that that was truly a trigger where so much was set in motion, and that's where I started to witness those synchronicities
Mm-hmm.
and consciously pay attention to them. They were leading me in a path and in a direction. And it was so amazing how during our hot day ceremony, and you had no, you had no forewarning of any of this other stuff. And you're like, take one step. I was resisting even that medicine at the time, and like, all you need to do is take a step onto a new path. And like I did, I physically took a step while we were in ceremony. I took a step, and like, the medicine was working all of a sudden. It let go, and it's been that way ever since. Where bringing conscious awareness to the day-to-day life, the choices, conscious choices.
Yeah.
But that was the one first trigger that set everything else into motion. Set the talks of retirement, the talks of just getting to Colombia, then coming back and reintegrating and integrating in with partnership with my wife's business, and then building that to where we're now having, taking people to Colombia, having our own retreats in J2R, more local level, and also, growing my men's circles, helping other men heal and come into places of safety, and help remember. And yeah, there's so much beauty around that. But the most beautiful thing is the recognition that I can be a gift to others.
Yeah.
That one little thing, that one little triggering event, and me to realize that I do have gifts that I get to share with others.
Yeah.
Just by showing up as my authentic self, just by the nature of what I've experienced through life. Into this second right now, I get to share myself with others and leave them feeling more whole, and giving them the example, as you were saying, giving them the example that they get to choose to live in whichever way feels most authentic to themselves.
Yeah. And what else is available in their true authentic self, because they might not have awareness of what that actually is.
Yeah.
Because medicine allows us to open and expand to who we truly are, all that we are, that we haven't even had an awareness around in just a human 3D construct.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You had some deep healing though with
yeah.
healing the cancer and
Yeah.
healing your, and I love that you bring reflection to all these aspects that got healed. I think we're all a part of it, right? It's like that was the trigger, that was the diagnosis, but suppressing your voice, being in a life of control, no emotion, not following, like not having any joy or doing what you want to do, all of those things that got to shift, we're all a part of what was creating that as a result, but they were the root cause and a part of that. And I know you went into some very specific healing of even releasing that out of your system.
Yeah, just the releasing of, you know, decades of stress, right? Letting that go away. And even in ceremony, right, with Carolina and Mama both. You know, they so gracious, you know, was Carolina with her healing hands and her gifts to take me and spend extra time with me and actually working with my cancer.
Yeah, pulling it out.
Working with the cancer. It's not mine.
Yeah. Good catch. Good catch.
And
What was in that experience? Yeah. A reflection of it.
I was, you know, she works with her saints and Saint Gregorio Hernandez, you know, as her teacher, gave her the ability to work with these and help people, and she has in the past and will in the future. And with me, she was gracious enough to give me special time. She sat me, you know, I was already in with the medicine, and she had prefaced, you know, that day when I was with Mama and was being served, that, you know, today we'll work with you.
Going in. Yeah.
Allow the medicine to work with you in this process. And she reached in. She reached in. I mean, this is where it is. There's a big scar there now. It's been cut off, but she, you know, I was deep in medicine, and I could, you know, sit there and feel her energy, and Mama standing guard over her in case, you know, our energies clashed. And you know, and I didn't know at the time like what all this was happening, but she reached in and pulled the cancer from me. She just, and I was with it. I could see she has a snake on her hand. I could see the snake going down into my soul and pulling out just black tendrils. And there were other snakes, you know, and her hand, her snake was guarded by a grid of bright red light, and it was just pulling this out. It was so painful, so painful. And, you know, just pulling it out from the side of my face. And I remember she did it twice, where she held my head, and like I could feel my head pushing against her hand, but it was not entirely me pushing. And then she reached in, pulled it out, and I just, this complete wash of peace, serenity, relaxation. And I started to break down and cry a little bit. And then she went back in again.
Let's take care of it all.
Yeah, she's like, we're here, we're going to do all of this. And she went in even deeper, and I mean, just down into the depths of my soul. And I, you know, my eyes were closed the whole time, but I could see her, I could see Mama, I could see them, you know, standing over me, Mama standing guard and being the protector that she is, the beautiful guide that she is. And Carolina went in the second time and reached even deeper and got the last little bits and pulled them out. And that was like 10 times more painful than the first one. And when she did, I was just like exhausted and just like went limp. And her and Mama both helped me back down onto my mat. And I just went as deep as I could possibly go after that. It was like everything was gone. Everything that had felt so heavy, so stressful, so burdensome. I mean, it was like a weight was lifted. And laid down, and I was able to like move on. I truly just move on.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Mm-hmm.
there was no lingering anything, worries, fears, and the whole day before, that was the second day. I was actually just reading over my notes before we started. That was the second day.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole rest of the day was just light and bliss. And I was able to receive so much more. I mean, the first day had been freaking amazing. And the second day was just a catapult from there. And the third day, I mean, every day was just layers
Yeah.
and layers and layers and learning and
Yeah.
much amazing stuff. So
Yeah.
I was
Why
blessed
we
with
like
that,
to go layers. That's why we do the layers.
working through those layers. And I mean, I was truly blessed with that. And it's I don't have words for it. Like we
Mm.
started this podcast, I don't have words for it.
Yeah.
It was an amazing experience that I could only hope that others get to have in turn.
Mm.
Um, but it truly speaks to what the medicine is and what it can give us. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just about traumatic healing; it's about physical healing. It's a gift.
Yeah.
That's the only word for it. It is a gift.
Mm.
I truly honor that.
Mm. Mm. Sure. Just fully
Yeah.
receiving the transmission and your shares, and yeah, and your from your authenticity. It's like, no words, my loves. I can only share with you in the best human words possible what I experienced, what I'm experiencing now. And, we surrender and trust that the right people that are seeking or calling, or the medicine is speaking to them, and, knows there's a greater purpose experience for them to live. That's what they came here for, is speaking to them. And, whether they have followed you or come across the podcast or etc., to be able to hear your story and hear reflections and resonance with what they might have believed or thought about life, and what else is possible. So again, I just really want to honor you for, yeah, for all of it, for the whole journey. Again, I feel so grateful. My heart is so nourished witnessing you and having these divine experiences with you, and then to see you step forward and awaken embodied healer, and to have people that I can fully trust have gone through the depths of the training to go, like, cool, like, so just to give context for everyone, is if they go to our events page, you'll see a whole calendar of, the times, like when Scott and Megan, his wife, would be going to Columbia or running the journey to remembrance is my other signature experience, working with psilocybin and 5-MeO and sometimes ketamine. And so it's like being able to go, oh, like now there's so many more possibilities, and then the in all the ways that you guys support people in going through the transformation, and not only from the preparation and the during and integration with these sacred experiences, but like you said, also in your men's circles, in the coaching platform, and the other ways that you're able to share. So yeah, just thank you, beloved. So if you guys are interested in seeing when Scott's running some of the signature experiences that he's been trained to and working with those sacred sacraments, you can check our events page, which we'll have all the links in here, as well as a link of how people can connect to you, Scott. But if you want to, I mean, we kind of shared before, but the ways that you're serving and sharing as this, transformational guide and this master facilitator in the retreats, as well as in coaching, as well as, being able to in your men's circles. Is there anything else you want to share as far as maybe the ways that you're sharing, offering that people, could be interested in connecting with you on? And
we're moving closer to, in the age of COVID, everything went off and became virtual. And, there's nothing more powerful than a hug. There's nothing more powerful than touch. So there's some good, exciting stuff on the horizon about getting these men's circles to be more in person on a regular basis. Basically gathering of men, and obviously that's my passion, is healing men. So it's not about being exclusionary. It's just about where I find my most purpose. So
amazing.
we're going to be
Creating
getting
a
people
space for
together.
them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, safe space to help heal men so that they can heal and provide better for the world.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you for all the ways that you offer and share. we will put the links so that you guys can know where you can find out more about Scott and Megan, where you can, follow what they're doing, which I highly recommend, be able to be connected in their experiences and their shares and all the truths that they always share in, as well as connecting to when they're, supporting in some of the retreats in this way as well. So, but yes, I would, and I guess as I tune into what would be the calling forth, or what feels like the invitation for people, or the contribution here, is just, to witness what is possible. Witness what is possible, right? Like, we all have stories, we all have experience, we all have, every single one of us is here for our own greatest heroine, I want to say, God, goddess journey, right? Of being here to experience all that human is, and all the polarity. And it's also all the vastness of our human possibilities and potentiality and multidimensionality. And so you shared that so beautifully, Scott, coming from law enforcement, this many years, this is what I need to do and have to do. And to, just being such being able to live life in such a beautiful, expanded way, in service, in your passion, in your joy, in your bliss, with your family life. And so I would really invite people to just take an awareness and a look at where we bought into the 3D collective idea of that this is normal, as you said before, like that this is normal. This is just what we're, this is how life really is. And actually, what else could be available and possible, and expand into that. And so, and then, reach out to Scott, reach out to see, like I said, get involved in what they're doing, or even if you tune into, like in the event page, tons of resources, just like listening to this podcast is tons of resources to get yourself more informed and start to prepare yourself in whatever way that gets to look like. That might be, a lot of my peeps go through Align to Manifest and a lot of my products and programs before they're ready for that. Scott, you hadn't been through anything. Your wife had been to my retreats, your mother-in-law had been a personal client. She'd been in Align to Manifest, I think, for like 2 years. And you were just like, okay, cool. And you just catapulted. So, it can sometimes, medicine can show up for people and be like, okay, like you said, it'd been calling to, it's just time. And it can open the pathway to all the other ways that then you get to learn and grow and expand your awareness and integrate it into your life, just like you stepped into Awakened Embodied Healer. And it also, for people to be like, okay, like I get that there, I can start to see there's a lot of things for me to move through, and I can clean up, so that as I then can go enter in with medicine, so much more is also available. So there's just a lot of resources available, and there's beautiful evidence right in front of you with this beloved Scott, sharing massive shifts of his world, came right out of that, retired, stepped into doing your purpose and all the things, having your healing. And that's also available. We don't have to put it off. We don't have to make it a process or a long period of time. Like, it's here and now, and we can choose it here and now. Yeah.
Take ownership of your own life. Use your voice. Make the choice.
Oh, I love that. Say that one more time, my love.
Take ownership of your own life. Make the choice. And
you said use your voice. You said take ownership of your own life. Use your voice.
Use your voice. Make the choice. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful, especially coming from it's like the opposite of what you were experiencing and what you learned. It's always a choice. I'm worthy of being heard and speaking to what I want, and asking for what I want, and experiencing what I want, and taking up space and being able to take ownership fully of my life, radical responsibility. So thank you for that. Yeah. Thanks again for coming and sharing your story with us. I so appreciate you.
Thank you, Marci. I love you.
I love you too. We love you guys. Have an amazing, wonderful rest of your experience and whatever you're in. And, we look forward to continuing to see you and serve you and be with you on this sacred journey and on the other side. Send you lots of love.